She shattered my life, fed me lies for 16 years, and tore our family apart. I'm 40 now, and so is my wife. We've been together since she was 16 and I was 18, a lifetime really. But I only uncovered the full truth recently. It all started 8 months after we got married when I found out she had multiple affairs before we had our child years ago. I had always sensed something was off back then, but no matter how much I pressed, she never gave me a straight answer. Flashback to 2008, I knew something wasn't right. There were signs, little things that didn't add up. So I started digging, looking for answers. Eventually, I found a hidden phone, one she hadn't told me about. Turns out, some guy had given it to her, and once I read through the messages, there was no denying it, she had been cheating. The conversations between them went on forever, filled with flirty texts and explicit exchanges. When I confronted her, she swore up and down that nothing physical ever happened, that it was just texting and sexting. Deep down, I never fully bought it, but I wanted to believe her. I needed to. For the next 16 years, I wrestled with that doubt. I brought it up, questioned her, tried to find closure. Back in 2007, when this all started, we were engaged, living together, planning a future. But that gut feeling of betrayal never left me, so I held off on marrying her. It took years for me to convince myself she was telling the truth, to feel secure enough to move forward. Eventually, I convinced myself enough to go through with it, and in 2022, we finally tied the knot. Then, just a few months later, everything unraveled. I tracked down the guy from 2008, and he confirmed what I had feared all along. The truth I had spent 16 years searching for had been right in front of me the entire time. I just hadn't been ready to face it. When I finally confronted her, she admitted to having an affair. She told me she had slept with a guy she met through work, some older coworker who had been flirting with her for months. She claimed it was a one-time thing, a mistake she regretted instantly. That should have been the final straw, but instead, I found myself digging deeper, trying to make sense of it all. For the next 15 months, I pushed for answers. I wanted to understand why she did it, how it happened, and what exactly led her to betray me. I didn't just need closure for myself. I had to know the truth for the sake of my daughter. If I was going to decide our future, I needed the full story. But that entire time? More lies. At first, she swore up and down that they never had sex in our home, that it was just one night at a hotel. Then later, she slipped up and admitted they'd hooked up in his car too. When I asked if they ever spent time together outside of that, she said no, until I found out they had gone out to dinner multiple times before anything physical even happened. Her stories kept changing. First, she said it lasted only a couple of weeks. Then it became a few months. Eventually, I discovered their relationship had stretched for nearly a year. The more I pressed, the more inconsistencies piled up. She claimed she ended it immediately, but I found messages proving she was still in contact with him long after I first confronted her in 2008. At one point, she even tried to say it wasn't technically cheating because they never told each other, "I love you." It got to the point where I didn't believe a single word coming out of her mouth. Finally, she offered to take a lie detector test. She insisted this would prove her honesty, that she was done lying and ready to rebuild. I was skeptical but agreed. Maybe this would be the thing that gave me a real answer. She failed. Miserably. The test didn't just confirm what I already knew, it exposed more than I was ready for. She hadn't just cheated with one guy. She had multiple affairs during that time, including a fling with a friend of ours, someone who had been in our home many times. She admitted she only took the test because she thought she could fake her way through it. That was it. That was the moment I knew. She never planned to tell me the full truth. She had spent 16 years manipulating me, covering up affair after affair, letting me marry her while keeping all of this hidden. And all that time, I was the fool trying to convince myself she had changed. When she failed the test, I already had a feeling things were worse than she admitted. So I decided to push further. I asked a direct, no room for excuses question. Have you slept with more than specific number of people? I knew exactly how many partners she claimed to have had before me, and since we had been together practically our entire adult lives, there weren't many gaps where she could have been with someone else. When that question came up, the polygraph spiked hard. She failed badly. My heart dropped. That one question confirmed what I had feared. There were more men. It wasn't just the affairs I had recently discovered. There was an entire history of infidelity that she had kept buried. I pressed her for answers, and the more I pushed, the more her story fell apart. She admitted to sleeping with at least 4 different men over the years, but even that felt like another lie. How many more were there? How long had this really been going on? Had she ever been faithful to me? And the worst part? Life between us had seemed normal, loving even. We have a 15-year-old daughter, and up until I uncovered all this, I would have said we had a good life. We weren't a perfect couple, but I was happy. I was all in. I was a good father and a good husband. The only thing that had ever truly haunted me was not knowing the full truth about what happened all those years ago. And now I had my answer. The weight of it crushed me. I hated that her actions meant I now had to be the one to destroy our family. It wasn't fair to my daughter. She had grown up in a stable home, surrounded by love, and now I was about to turn her world upside down because of something her mother had done before she was even born. It had been so long ago for my wife, but for me, it was right now. I was just discovering the depth of her betrayal. I could never be okay with someone who had lied so effortlessly for so many years. I don't know how this ends. People say the pain gets easier with time, but right now, I can't see how.